So I'm going to give you my thoughts. Martin will probably chip in and comment on what I'm saying, and then he's going to do the same thing. So it's a little bit of a sort of story of what's happened this year in terms of trading. Okay, does that make sense? Good. So for me, I think the most important thing that's come to light for me, and Martin, if you when you're doing your section, you need to bring the slides up, or sorry, not slides, but you want to bring your charts up. Just let me know. So for me, I think the big thing that's come about this year is, and I'm starting with a negative, but I think it's very important because I think it's very important to be honest about where you're at and what you're doing. Is for me, I have seen my motivation to swing trade drop massively. I don't know why off the top of my head. Well, I do know why, but at the time I didn't know why. I just feel less inclined to swing trade. I think that has partly to do with opportunity. How many of you feel less motivated by your trading if there are less opportunities around? Yeah, it's human nature, right? So you're going to have these scenarios where you feel like if you're getting 1 MPR a week, there's part of your brain that's almost saying, well, what's the point? So for me, that's the time to develop other angles, but not to ditch the other one. Does everyone see the subtle difference between the two? What you don't want to be is going, oh, there's nothing happening here, I'll go and do that. And then when there's nothing happening with that, you go there, and you're chasing your tail. So for me, I was sitting there going, why am I not as motivated? So I looked at it, and I think primarily it's because trade frequency has dropped. So the problem is that how many of you have noticed that we are quite specific about our MPRs, our swing momentum pullbacks? You're not getting an abundance of signals. Well, the result from that is because what we've had happen is because there were more signals back in 2009, 10, 11, 12, we could be quite particular about our choices and still get an abundance of signals. Does that make sense? So what I've seen is this whole idea where my being strict is still paying off, but it's just paying off to a lesser amount. Does that make sense? So what natural things do you think have entered my head? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, right, that hasn't paid off. Or it's paid off, but to a lesser extent. What do you think by default I'm thinking, guys? So I'm sitting there going, I'm not as motivated to swing trade. I'm not getting as many trades. What do you think my thought, which avenue do I think? Yeah, but in what, actually, initially, no. What I thought about doing was, so looking elsewhere is right, Brian, but it's not what I initially thought. Yeah, close, Peter. Bit like Brian. My initial thought was, the words were, am I being too strict for the current market conditions? So my thought was, can I loosen my level of strictness because I know there are other opportunities that if I wasn't as strict, I could take. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not saying that's what I did. That's just what entered my head. So, but here's the thing. The reason I didn't do that, can anyone hazard a guess why I didn't do that? Very good, Sam. Or taking trades that are less good. Yeah, very good, Peter. Is essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to take more from the market than is what is on offer based on how I trade. Does that make sense? So I'm being a little bit reactive, although it can feel like I'm being proactive, Can everyone see the subtle difference? I'm actually being slightly reactive, but it's masked with proactivity. And what's interesting is once I had this realization, I started seeing other people doing a similar thing. Does that make sense? So I'm not getting the trade, so I want to do this, or I'm going to just tweak this, or I'm going to just change that. Now, my feeling is I've got something that works, and it still works, it's just working to a lesser extent. Now, interestingly enough, one of the reasons I think I was pushing this a little bit was because it's a signal service as well. Does that make sense? So I'm talking about the weaknesses and the uncertainties that I'm having. So when I'm sending it out as a signal service, because I'm not looking for my swing trading to be my income, it's just part of what the money I make. But I felt the pressure to deliver to you guys lots of signals. Is that making sense? Now, the reason I'm saying that is that can be no different than you putting pressure on yourself to place trades. I've been doing this 6 months. I need to get some trades in. And whatever the stimulus. So who's ever felt that? The pressure to trade. Even if it's just them, even if it's just you putting the pressure on. Yeah. So for me, that was really good because it made me go, look, no, don't loosen your grip. Don't be influenced by, or don't hallucinate. Because we've been talking about that a lot this week. That's an hallucination, isn't it? I'm hallucinating that all you lot are sat there thinking, oh, not many signals. Now, you might be thinking that, or you might not, but it's still me thinking something without the fact being there. So the big one for me was, look, okay, your motivation's going a little bit towards your swing trading because it's not making the money it has done. Give me a yes if that makes sense. So for me, it wasn't a case of saying, oh, okay, can't do. It's like, okay, just be honest, just be direct, right? Be open and honest to the fact that you are motivated by money. That's great. That's part of why you trade. But as long as you're not making decisions by money. So I think the first learning for me this year is, and it's one I've known, hi Carl, good to see you, mate, is you have to be motivated by money on some level. Give me a yes if that makes sense. But you can't trade for money. So the realization I had from that process was, well, I'm less inclined to swing trade. I'm less enthused by it because it's not making me as much money. But if I then change the way I trade, I'm then letting my money motivation impact my trading. Is that making sense? Yes, Martin, come on now. Yeah, of course.
Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to add something to Ali's comment. What I think is a very good idea to think about. When you trade for money, you're basically focusing or looking at your trading as a means to an end. So what you're doing is looking at that particular trade and saying, okay, I want to have that much money, or I want to make that much money out of that particular trade, which means it's a means to an end, and trading cannot be means to an end because it's an evolving process. It's a skill that you learn. Does that make sense?
That's brilliant, mate. Brilliant. Yeah. So my realization was, oh, my motivation's gone. Why? Because I'm doing this for money and I'm not making the money from swing trading. But if I change what I'm doing exactly what Martin's saying, is I'm not evolving. Yeah. It could be that the swing strategies we currently run are evolving. They're evolving not just because we're getting more opportunities, we're getting less opportunities, so we will evolve. So here's the important thing. The lack of swing trades motivated me to think about how we can bring in more what? Have a guess. So the lack of swing trades motivated me. Yeah. But what type of trades? Day trades. Yeah. So rather than me bring in loads more swing trades, was bringing more day trades, because one of the issues that, because what I was doing was linking it. So one of the issues that we had is one of the things that I was very concerned with as a coach was the lack of frequency that new traders were placing. Give me a yes if that makes sense. So i.e., you've come on board and you've taken 2 months to place one trade. That's not good for motivation. Although you're not trading for money, you want to trade for experience. And Robin, who's new, she's going through this at the moment. She's like, yeah, I know I'm not trading for money. I just want to get 20 trades under my belt to experience the different things that go on with 20 trades, which is a great mindset to have. So for me, what it was, well, I could bring in 2 more swing strategies or work them out, but how much is that going to impact frequency-wise? Because if the overall market conditions aren't great, or there's not an abundance of opportunities, because after all, there's only so many ways you can trade. Does that make sense? Pull back, breakout, reversal, breakout. Does that make sense? So, without going, how many more swing strategies can I bring in that's going to massively up the frequency? Ultimately, how do you get more reversal? How do you get more MPRs? You get more MPRs when you get more swing consolidation breakouts and swing momentum pullbacks with the trend, because price then moves to a more extended level to a point where I take the trade, and then what do you get? You get more swing consolidation breakouts against the trend. Does that make sense? So bringing in more and more swing strategies is not going to massively up the frequency. In essence, all I would be doing is adding in a different entry criteria. Does that make sense to everyone? So the GSPs for me at that point were really, the GSPs covers most of the bases. There's not really a lot else to do. So actually, the evolution came from the pain, frustration, annoyance, whatever emotion, the negative of there not being enough swing trading, the boredom. I was literally getting bored to the point where I remember saying to Sally, if it wasn't for you guys and the GSP, so I've got you guys to thank for a load of my profit this year, I probably wouldn't swing trade. I'd have gone off and done day trading. So in a way, this is the collective. This is why Traders Support Club works and is so good. Is the unified approach of all of us, and me doing the signals for you means I'm like, I'm back focused on my swing trades. Does that make sense to everyone? And brought in first trade of the day as well. So first day of the month. So first day of the month has been, from a swing trading point of view, a really important one. So if you're looking for trade frequency, there's 12 trades a year, pretty much. So that, if you're trading, I don't know, 30 swing trades, that's a massive increase in what you're doing. So, yeah, so morning momentum breakouts. Martin looking for a few day trade reversals in the evening. All of these things are probably wouldn't even be having discussion if our swing trading was higher. So it all evolves. So all it's doing is positioning you, because these day trading strategies that we have will come along and still be there even when the markets pick up. So if you do both, you position yourself that when the swing trading picks up, you're better equipped. But I think my next key point is don't have that mindset of, well, things are quiet, I'll wait till things pick up. Who's fallen foul to that? Has anyone ever done that? Oh, we trade. Well, I know things are quiet at the moment. It's not a lot going on. I'll get on with other things until things pick up. I know that mindset has creeped in on occasions. So make sure you don't let that come in, because that's something that can make a massive impact, because then when things do pick up, you'll be late for it. All right. So I think that's my sort of personal side. What's gone really well for me is, I would say, is my focus on my day trading. My day trading has been really good. I know I have the advantage of not being in a job, so I can do that, but I have a lot of other things going on during the day. For me, what has really helped is morning momentum breakouts. I like that early morning trade position where I'm still doing something that is not mechanical. I like doing the mechanical trades, but I like doing and having that focus every morning. Does that make sense? So for me, the condition of having that makes a massive difference for me, because the business is growing, Trader Support Club is going, what we want to offer people is so much growth that I could easily not trade. Does that make sense to everyone from a time point of view? I started, and it's not every day, and I'm not saying this to go, well, look at me, but I started at 4:30 this morning and we'll finish about 10:30. Now, admittedly, tomorrow, the team are meeting up, so we're having a team meeting, quote unquote, drink up, but anyway, that's another. So we're having a team meeting tomorrow, but so there's going to be a chunk of tomorrow that we're not doing anything, but if I look at my day, it started at 4:30, we'll finish at 10:30, but interesting enough, the actual trading time in that wasn't huge, but it was focused. Does that make sense to everyone? So for me, one of the things that I'm very pleased about this year, and I can see a measurable difference on last year, both in the results, and how I'm doing, and how I'm reacting to different results, is that having that morning thing. I am convinced that everybody should do it. Now, I know some people logistically simply cannot be in front of that screen at that time, and that's okay. But if you can be, evening Ron, evening Leanne, if you can be there, be there. Yeah. So if you can do first day for morning momentum breakouts, do them, even if you don't end up trading them, because there's such a big skill set that you will learn. And what's interesting is, and this isn't about look at me or anything like that. Yeah. What it does is what's great about it is it separates the experienced trader from the inexperienced trader very quickly and very regularly, doesn't it? Who would agree? So you can be there in the morning as an experienced trader or witnessing somebody else, and their analysis gets pulled apart in seconds, or their emotional response, or why they took a trade, or why they're convincing themselves or deluding themselves. And not just Roy, because Roy's very vocal, so you often hear how Roy is about a trade. But we've seen it with me, we've seen it at how you've seen me make a mistake with the whole thing with Leanne. So what's wonderful about a high trade frequency is the learning is greater. Does that make sense? So you will all, so trade it, be there. Some people said, oh, I can't get up, it's not for me. And I'm like, it's not, but you're not going to get such a concentrated learning experience than that half an hour, 40 minutes. So it's a huge focus. So I think that's for me. The big one is focus on trading. I thought I was focused last year, but it's only now I focused more this year that I realized how less focused I was last year, if that makes any kind of sense. So one of the things I think that I've learned is that your focus. No, we've got one recorded that we've sent out, Peter. I think you should have received it at some point, but if you want it, I can send it out. But the best way to learn it is to be in the room at that time if you can be there. Yeah. If you can't be there during the morning, you can still place the trades beforehand. Yeah. So I think the key thing is the learning I want to give you guys is that no matter how focused you are, you can probably be more focused. Does that make sense? And that doesn't mean you should feel bad about where you are. And I'm going to talk more about this in the psychology section. I think from a trading point of view, anything else, one of the strengths is, I think, one of the things that I've realized is how important it is to practice clarity. I don't know if anyone else can agree. So the conditioning of when you take a trade, have the decision ahead of time, being confident in the trade, but confident for the right reasons, the process, the setup, the levels. Whereas some people are trying to still fake the confidence, as in, just need to feel confident about this trade. No, you've got to make sure that all the ducks are aligned. And if you don't feel confident, the chances are you don't feel confident if you're following your process. So write this down. If you're following your process and you don't feel confident, it's probably because of something that you've seen. Does that make sense? So if you're following the process, you're not hallucinating or bringing in your own stuff. If you're following the process and you're feeling unconfident, and it's not day 2, day 3, or day 8, you've been doing it a couple of months, there's probably a reason for that. Yeah. So it's having that focus, it's having that confidence, and it's being, and I can't get enough how important it is to be ahead of the market. So if you're looking, if you're thinking, if you're going to be trading, you've got to be 10 on a 5-minute chart, 10 or 15 minutes ahead of the game. You want to be confidently putting conditions on the market. I want this to set up here. I want this to do that. If it pulls back to here, then I will do this. And especially what I've seen recently is lots of, and again, it's not just Roy, I've seen it across the board with lots of people. It's just we hear about it from Roy a lot in the morning. I was discussing this briefly with Martin, and I mentioned it to Kerry at one point, is the amount of hallucination. So really be wary of that whenever you're trading. Does that make sense? Am I just making shit up? Now, am I just making shit up that's not on the screen? Or am I making stuff up about a level? Like, oh yeah, I discounted this because it's weak. Why is it weak? I just felt it was weak. Does that make sense for everyone? Is ask yourself, am I dealing with what I'm seeing? There's a book called Trade What You See. So I think from my perspective, they're the key things. So I'm gonna hand over to Martin now. So I'd say yes. So in summary, for me, what I've been, for me it's the boredom that I've seen, and not reacting to that, but looking at it going, okay, I'm motivated by money overall, but I'm not trading for money. So by bringing in more day trading and going in the direction that the market dictates, rather than trying to make money from stuff that isn't there. Trade frequency, I think, has been a big one from a coaching point of view. It's made my coaching job a lot easier. It's brought out insights. It's made me sit there at 3 in the morning wondering how I'm going to how I'm going to help this person, or what is it they're doing wrong. And I love that. I'm obsessed by that. That's when I know I'm alive. When I'm lying there going, how am I going to make that work? Because we're getting these things happen. I'm thinking, all right. And then for me, it's don't hallucinate. Focus. If you're focused, can you be more focused? Yeah. Technically, I think I'm very pleased with a lot of the decisions that I've made. So that's me. So now Martin's going to do a similar thing. We're not getting into, there's a lot I want to talk about from a mindset point of view. And there's a lot Martin wants to talk about from a mindset point of view. You too, Kerry, take care. I'll see you in the morning. We'll see you lunchtime. Now, for me, this is more sort of what I've observed from my trading and tied it in with the coaching. So Martin's going to do the same thing. So over to you, buddy.
Hey guys, evening to everyone that I miss. Evening, Debbie. So just want to share my thoughts for how I look at my 2015. I can literally say this is one of the best years in my life. I achieved so many things I could never imagine I can achieve. First, and one of the most important things that I found for myself was that every single thing, either good or bad, that happened made me to become better. Better trader, better husband, better father, better friend. Every single thing that happened throughout this year just helped me to evolve. And when I realized this, that's when my trading started improving dramatically. At the beginning of this year, I went through a very big drawdown that I never experienced before. So what happened was that before that drawdown, I achieved around 160% return, and I wasn't prepared for what came at the beginning of this year. And it really felt like a big shock to me, because I wasn't prepared for it. But with the help of Ali and the rest of the guys, I overcome it, And the key thing for me was that no one told me actually what I have to do. No one gave me strict directions in what I have to do, but they help me to realize it, understand it, simplify it, and go through it and learn from the experience. So this is key thing for me. So the first big lesson was that trading is something very individual. It is not something you take out from other people or you learn in books or you learn in movies. Yes, you do take knowledge from the world around you, from the people around you, but then you filter this knowledge through your understanding, through your personality, and you feed it to work for you. And when I realized this is a big thing, very key thing for me for my trading to become better. Does that make sense to everyone? So when you trade or when you look at for setups, every single bit that you're looking to do, it's very important first to ask the question is how is this gonna work for me? Not asking the question, okay, how much money that made for that person. If that made that much for that person, that means it's gonna work for me. No, that's not the reality. First you need to ask the question, how is this going to work for me? Can I feel it? Can I see it? Let me try it. If you don't feel it, don't not necessarily you have to do it. So another thing after experiencing the drawdown that I realized was when I got through the drawdown, everything was absolutely normal because I haven't experienced this in the past. So I panicked in a way, and I thought that the strategy wasn't working. So I literally thought that that was the end of the strategy, which wasn't the reality. And what I started doing, I start looking for other strategies, other ways to trade, and literally every single week I was trading something completely different. And after that happening, I had quite a few conversations with Ali, and I came to the conclusion that this is not necessarily bad that I'm doing, but it's bad thing because I'm looking to change the whole system to a completely new system. Does that make sense? And what I found is that your trading, and this is what I'm currently doing, this is how I become even better, is evolving in a way, but the base stays the same. Does that make sense? So for example, if I'm looking to trade pullbacks, right? If I'm looking to trade 5-minute pullbacks using momentum in clean air as a discretion, when I'm trading this and backtesting, but keep on backtesting, then I can look for different trade management tools. I can use, I can see to if it's possible to take more out of a single move. I can see if it's possible to manage my stop loss, so I can lower the risk. Does that make sense? So I didn't realize this, but instead I was changing to a completely different system. So last year I was trading mechanically a certain candle, then after that candle got into a drawdown, then I started looking for completely different market, completely different things. Then I because I was trading morning momentum breakouts and morning momentum breakouts throughout the day, then I started using different trading tools every single week. I wasn't consistent in my approach, so I wasn't getting consistent results. And for me, consistency is very, very important. I just it's just very important to be consistent, not only with your approach but with the vision you have on the market. Does that make sense? So if you think, if you believe that the market needs to present opportunities in that particular time during the day, you need to be consistent into looking these opportunities so you can see them. You need to be consistent in your approach. You need to be consistent in your research. You need to be consistent in the strategies you're doing. And this was the third thing for me that I took out from this year, is that the market presents unlimited opportunities. Market really presents unlimited opportunities, but it's up to you to believe that that's possible. It's very interesting, but we did earlier, couple of weeks ago, we did a session on this, and I find it fascinating that people are getting exactly what they believe they're gonna get. Does that make sense? So if you believe your strategy, your current strategy will be able to give you 100% per year, this is what you're doing. This is how you're approaching the market. This is the tools you're using, so you will get around 100% per year. But if you want more and be happy with more, you need to expand on your beliefs. You need to expand on your vision. For the fourth thing that I took out from this year was time. So time is a big thing for me. It's not only, for me, it's not only trading and being consistent as, let's say, let's say if you're given a strategy, a swing strategy, and trade only, let's say, first day of the month strategy, and you make around, if you risk 5%, let's say you make around 5%, or you lose 5% per month. In a year time, if you don't feel happy, or when you plan ahead and you don't see trading only that strategy can get you where you want to be in the time you want to get there, then you need to look for the time, for the trade frequency, and you need to look for the time efficiency. So it's not only trading consistently, but for me it's also how fast you can get that 100% per year. Does that make sense to everyone? And when I say how fast, how quick, I mean is that your focus needs to be where you want to get. Does that make sense? So it is possible, probably, I haven't done it till now, but probably it's possible to make 60% per month. But for that to happen, you need to look for the system to achieve this. It is possible to get 10% per month. It is possible to get 15% per month. But for that to happen, for example, my trading, day trading, pullbacks and breakouts is giving me around between 10 and 15% per month on average. So I'm more than happy with this. What I need to do is wake up every morning when the market is open and hunt down the trades and try to not miss any possible setups. Does that make sense to everyone? So in order to achieve an average 10 to 15% per month, I know from my backtesting that this is what trading that strategies on that particular markets. I trade on 5 markets. I know that this is what I'm getting between the time that I'm doing. So I'm trading from 7, starting from around 7 a.m. I'm trading to around 9, 10 a.m. So for that period of time, I'm making between 10 and 15% per month. But I know that for me to achieve this, I need to be consistent in what I'm doing and not thinking about it too much. So focusing on the process and focusing on that particular present time for me to place the trade, then thinking about the results, thinking about the greed, focusing on the greed. So for if I want to get more out of the trade, which I do, I've got a system that I've backtested and I'm using the same system every single time. And I know that if I'm to get that result, I need to do the same thing every time it comes along. So instead of focusing on the 10 or 15% per month, I'm focusing on taking every single setup that comes along. Does that make sense to everyone?
Can I add something in there, Martin?
Go on, Ari.
What he's saying there is hugely important. Now, one of the things, how many of you were in the morning momentum breakout session when I showed you actually how many trades you needed in a month to get 5%? Was anybody there when I went and did that little bit? And most of the people were shocked Because what you'll see, and this is exactly in line with what Martin is saying, is people get up and they follow a consistent approach, which is they get up, they follow the approach, which is they look for the momentum, they look for the consolidation, they look for the clean air, but they're not following a consistent vision. Does that make sense? Which is exactly what Martin was talking about. And the where and not and when they start doing better at that strategy, that specific strategy, is when their vision is based around certainty rather than hope. Because the problem is people will come in and they'll go, right, I want to trade the strategy, I want to make money, I want to make 10% a month, but they haven't quantified what that 10% looks like in terms of real time or testing time trading performance. Is this making sense to anyone? So what happens is they trade with hope and desire because they're focused on the result. And what you get is you get people thinking or trying to manifest 15% as winning 12 times out of 13. When actually to get 15%, if you're getting 2 to 1 or 1.5 to 1 on every winning trade on average, you don't actually need to win that often, or you need to win a lot less than you think. So when you do that, when you have a consistent vision because you've back tested and you know what is available, what the trade frequency is, what you need to get what you want, you lose the hope bit and you get consistency of vision, not just consistency of approach. Can everyone see the subtle difference? So it's the guy that turns up to the start line but has visualized winning the gold medal and has done the same training and had the same training approach, but the guy next to him is hoping he'll win the gold medal. Is that making any sense? Because what Martin is saying is it's so subtle, but it is so huge. Because then if you have a winning month and you make 40% in a month for whatever reason, you're not swayed by that and suddenly think that's the norm. Yeah. So, or vice versa, if you have a losing month, you're not swayed by it because you weren't placing trades with hope, you were placing them with consistency of vision. Cool. Back to you, mate.
Sorry, Aaron. I just wanted to add something to the beliefs that I spoke a bit earlier. Let me ask you a question to everyone. Do you believe everything happens with a reason? Is there anyone who believes that things don't happen with a reason? They just happen randomly? Okay, Ron? Yeah. So I would like to repeat, to quote my dad, what he told me after I had the drawdown in January. So I really felt very frustrated with myself, with my trading. And there was a moment where I asked myself the question, am I on the right way? Is that really worth doing? So because I really felt very weak. And I had a conversation with my dad who's trading as well. And he asked me the question, Martin, do you really believe that what you're doing and the path you got yourself on is happening for no reason? Do you really believe that for no reason you got involved with Trader Support Club and you start learning from Ali, who's been trading, I don't know, 20 years of his life, and he's been busting his butt to learn how to trade, and now he's ready to teach other people, and you're now cracking on with it, and you're learning how to trade, and you're experiencing all these things, and you wiped out 2 accounts already, and you're ready to wipe out a third one. Do you really believe that this is happening for no reason? And this was a big thing for me. This really brought my belief to another level. So this got me to a conclusion that what we are all doing is for a reason. So don't think that it's impossible. It's absolutely possible, and there is a big reason for you to be here tonight and for each one of us to do what we are doing. Does that make sense?
Good stuff, buddy.
Yeah, and just to finish, the last thing that I took out from this year and very, very big life changing for me was starting to coach you guys and to run the live online trading room sessions. That made me even a better trader. And the reason is, for me to explain you something, I need to set a certain level above my expectations, because most of you here, I, I've experienced, they know things that I don't know. And for me to be able to teach you something, it really pushed me even further to start learning and keep on learning and trying and become even better. So thank you guys, thank you Ale, but because of you here tonight, I'm becoming even better trader.
Thank you, mate. You're doing the work, and that's why, as Trader Support Club, we're looking for more people that want to do what Martin's done. And a lot of people will say, I don't necessarily have enough experience. And at that moment in time, it might be the case that you do need more experience. You might be 3 or 4 months in. But if you've got the intention and the will, what I found is that for me personally, I became a better trader when I taught. And when I started teaching, even though I was trading well, I didn't think I had enough experience to teach. So exactly the same. But actually, what it does is it actually, everybody's got a journey, and Martin's work ethic in his journey is fantastic. It's second to none. So you're learning, and as you guys have so rightly said, he's doing a great job of it. So, and also thank you for you guys being a supportive environment. And I know at times, especially over the last couple of weeks, I've been quite tough in the morning on people, quite frank, quite blunt, and I know Martin's been on your case in the evenings at times, and that's because we care, and that's because we know it gets results, and it's fantastic. Good. So what I want to move on to now, second part of the evening, is some specific things from a mindset point of view that have come out for me. I sat down for about an hour today and just thought, what things do I want to summarize from a mindset point of view, because it's the most important thing. If you draw back any of your successful periods with trading, any of your less successful periods, any of the time during the year where you've been less motivated or more motivated, if you peel the onion back down for whatever external reason or surface reason, it will be a mindset thing that has been the driver behind it. Does that make sense for everyone? So again, what I discussed with Martin is that there are some specific things that I want to share from a mindset point of view, and I know Martin's done quite a bit of that recently in the evening, and I said it doesn't matter if you're going over stuff with the guys, because you can hear it 1,000 times and you still need to hear it 1,001. And obviously you can't just have a good mindset, you've got to be able to trade, and you've got to understand the technicals, and they all are hand in hand. But I'm seeing this more and more and more in the morning, because we're obviously trading at that high frequency level of regular trades, sometimes two a day, 3 or 4 days on the trot. So some of these mindset stuff is coming out, and I think the first one I want to talk about is relating to trading. I got asked the question recently, how do you fit it all in, Ali? How do you fit it all in? And the simple answer is I don't sleep. Well, I do, but I probably sleep less than the average person. So how do I fit it all in? Well, one of the things that is important is I do have the luxury of what I do from the business point of view does have a direct relationship to the business. Does that make sense? So I do see that is fortunate, but I've earned that. For me, it's two things. I do my best to get as many low priority activities off my plate. Give me a yes if that makes sense. So rather than drilling down, so I've just had a discussion about Sarah about how we can get rid of a ton of other stuff that is not beneath us, but understanding and acknowledging, accepting, and it's the same for you guys, is that your top end skill set, which includes trading, is not something you can hand over to your neighbor, but maybe mowing the lawn is. Does that make sense? Or your kids. So it's just thinking of creative ways to get rid of low priority activities. Now that's priority to you. It doesn't mean they're lower down the list, they're less important, or that it makes you, it's just, can I get rid of low priority activities? Number two, for me, is forcibly getting your structure, your day, where trading comes in before 8, 9 o'clock. Even if it's reading 2 pages of a book, even if it's sitting on the tube and reviewing the trades that you've taken the previous week, is doing something trading orientated before the rest of your day starts. I cannot reiterate that, and I've seen it with people, with Kyle, with Patricia, very much. The biggest one is for you, Patricia, isn't it? So one of the biggest shifts this year is that with Patricia, she's being pulled and pushed in a million and one directions. The nature of the pulling and pushing is random. So one day it might be 2 o'clock, next day it might be 9 o'clock in the morning. So she's having to be in a position where her mindset was being affected so much that she couldn't trade correctly. But by doing morning momentum breakout, and again, you might be going, oh God, he goes on about morning momentum breakout, but it might be something different. It might be that you can't do that, but you sit on the tube and you sit, you've printed all your screenshots off and you go through them. It's just find a way to make trading one of the first things you do. Does that make sense for everyone? I cannot emphasize that enough. And for me, it's the common denominator. I'd still day trade. I would still have put in a good stint this year because I've been doing it long enough. But I've put in a better stint because I have that absolute focus on something specific when I start my day. Rather than come into the room, chat to you guys, do a scan, maybe there's some momentum somewhere. So that's, I think for me, is getting rid of low priority activities if you can, and making trading a high priority activity past just having the intention for it. The next thing is about how you perceive yourself within your journey and around the other people within your peer group. This is another one. So for instance, I was doing a coaching session with somebody today, and actually it's somebody I'm not coaching for trading. It's one of the few people I coach on other things. And she's having success in her particular business venture. However, she is seeing people who started at the same time as her doing infinitely better. And what do you think she is feeling as a result? Do you think that diminishes or has diminished her level of success? So let's say the income from her business is £1,400 a month, which is very successful in the time frame, but she's seeing somebody else do 50,000. Do you think that can diminish her success? Of course it can. Because she's seeing it black and white, isn't she? Black, white, black, white, black, white. Okay. So then what she does to make herself feel better, well, you tell me, what do you think she makes herself feel? How do you think she makes herself feel better? She looks at the person who's not done as much as her. Does that make sense? So she sees the person who is barely started the business venture, who went on the same training as her and started a bit, and she feels good. So what she does is she feels self-righteous because she makes herself feel better in comparison to that other person. Does that make sense? And then she feels self-righteous because she looks at the person who's doing better than her and puts them on a pedestal. You mean yes, if that makes sense? It's called bipolar. In 1 minute she's feeling self-righteous, and then next minute she's feeling self-righteous. Self-righteous, self-righteous. More than, less than. More than, less than. More than, less than. I said the problem is imagine a spinning top that's half black, half white, and that spinning top is like this, and it's sitting there like that, half black, half white. So when she's feeling self-righteous, she's focusing black, white, and then she doesn't spin it. She sends it across, so now it's leaning over here on this side of the ground, and it's still black and white. Does that make sense? So it's not radiating, it's not spinning, it's not creating energy. It's just going, it's sat over here, and then when she thinks about over there, so it's black, white. If she spun it, what color would it be? So if it's half black, half white, if she spun it, what color would it be? If that spinning top was not just lying on the ground and then she moves it over here, it'd be grey. And what would it be emitting? Would it be stagnant or would it be emitting energy? Would it be still or would it be in motion? So one of the things that's so important from a mindset point of view is that you use the people around you and you use the trading room in a correct way. Does that make sense? So if you sit there and go, oh, shit, they're doing brilliantly. I'm doing shit. Oh, but at least I'm doing better than him or her. What happens is it becomes a very black and white state. Now, you need to be black and white when you place a trade. You need to understand you can't be grey. But how many of you realize that no matter how black and white you want to make a trade, it's going to be grey? There's going to be trades that you don't know what to do. You're going to be trades you're uncertain. And there's going to be trades that you choose to not take and somebody else takes. And then immediately, if you think you're wrong and they're right, you've given your power away. What you want to focus on is you want to be so right about your trade for your reasons. And by being right for those reasons, what it means is you're in a state of energy, you're in a state of spinning, you're grey, and owning it, exactly. So that you can, and I said to her, is it wrong? Is it worth you patting yourself on the back for what you've done? Yeah, but not because you've done more than that person there. Is it worth you looking at the person who's done more and seeing, are there any traits that that person has got that you could bring over to you rather than feeling less than? And that's when you're spinning it grey. Does that make sense? So if you see somebody that's doing well, ask yourself, what is it that they might be doing, could be doing, that I'm not? What is it they're owning that I'm disowning at this moment? Does that make sense? And then look at the people below you and go, what is it that I've done that they haven't committed to yet? And that keeps you out of self-righteous, self-righteous, because it actually doesn't matter where they are, doesn't matter where the guy is, it only matters where you are and whether you're happy with that. Because if you're coming into a trading room thinking, I wonder what Ali's trading, or I wonder what this person's trading, or I wonder, oh, I bet they've got it nailed, or whatever, rather than what can I learn from them? So that was a big one. The second last thing, so I've got three more, sorry. The next one is, write this down, contributing factors and determining factors. Contributing factors and determining factors. Who's heard me talk about this before? Because you're probably for about the 9th time. Looking for some no's here. Brian, we did a session on this afternoon, which is what I'm going to touch on a couple of hours ago. Good. Okay. So, how many of you have ever wanted to lose weight or know somebody that's wanted to lose weight? Yeah. So, for instance, yeah. These days, the fitness industry, like the trading industry, like the person, is littered with bullshit. Okay. So, for instance, there'll be articles like, drink more water and lose weight. Who's seen stuff like this? Drink more water, get more sleep, and you'll lose weight. Missing link, secret. Yeah? Okay. What's happening is more and more in this industry, because information is accessible on so many frigging levels, isn't it? YouTube, this, boom, boom, boom. Is you are made to think that what you're about to read is going to be the thing that's going to make the difference. Who's ever kind of relate to this? You get a lot of this on YouTube. Business Insider. Read these 3 things to be successful in business and all this shit. Now, here's the thing. If you eat 3,000 calories in one day and you only expend 2,000, does it matter how much bloody sleep you get and how much water you drink? If you take in 3,000 and expend 2, it doesn't, because none of us yet are beyond the laws of physics. However, the articles will make you think that the issue is that you're not getting enough sleep. And the reason you take on that article and you latch onto it is because it's the easy option. Does that make sense? Because cutting your calories back is harder than drinking 2 liters of water, because you have to take something away. So you're automatically going, you can head in that direction. And then you're like, why is this not working? Because what you're doing is you're focusing on the contributing factors. The trouble with contributing factors is they only work, they do work as long as all the determining factors are in play. Give me a yes if that makes sense. So drinking 2 liters of water, sleeping 8 hours might be the difference between 10% body fat and 8% body fat, but not the difference between losing 3 stone and not losing 3 stone. Does that make sense to everyone? I'm using that analogy because people can relate to that. So the key thing is, ask yourself, when I'm engaging in trading, is this a determining factor of my success, or is this a contributing factor? And if you don't know, who do you ask? Yeah, you're someone who's lost weight. Yeah, from a trading point of view, who do you ask? You ask us. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you're sitting there going, is this right? And normally, a contributing factor initially will make you feel good. A determining factor will make you feel what? Uncertain, insecure, unsure, yeah. Because uncomfortable, because usually the determining factor is the thing that is going to give you the most development. And that's usually what you will feel the most resistance to. Does that make sense? So what are the determining factors for trading? Number one is trade. Yep. Demo, real. We won't go into the detail from that point, but demo or real determining fact is a determining factor. Does that make sense? Now, interestingly enough, on 4 occasions this week, I've had different people say to me, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to backtest this strategy. And I'm like, great. And then I'll start demo trading. And I'm like, do you know what the strategy is? Yes. Do you know how to place the trade? Yes. Do you know how to place orders? Yeah. Why not just start now? End of conversation. Because if you trade that every morning now, the minimum amount of trades you'll have based on the stats will be about 15 to 20 trades at the end of that month. If on a busy month, you'll probably have 40 trades. And then you've got demo trades. You've learned how to experience the strategy. You've seen where you may be making mistakes, and you've got 30 possible backtests. And if you backtest alongside that, does that make sense? So just be wary of how many ducks on in a row. That doesn't mean you just go out and trade anything that moves. I don't mean that. But that is subject to you understanding it. But if you know how a strategy works, demo trade it. Start feeling it. Because then you're more likely to do which the second determining factor is what? Testing. I don't know anyone who has not done extensive testing in what they trade. Does that make sense? That is success. I don't know anyone that's done 0 testing that is successful. Or they may have never tested, but what they do is they trade and then they build up 3 or 4 or 5 years experience without any success, and it's the 3 or 5 years of experience that they've done live that they've created results for that actually becomes their test bed. So there's probably people out, but I do not know of any trader in the world that has been successful without testing what they do. And the mindset is, if that's a determining factor for weight loss is what? Calorie deficit. If I then increase and I've got a calorie surplus, what do? What happens to me? I put on weight. Yeah. So if I backtest and I stop backtesting, I maintain. But if you want to go from 5% a month to 10% a month, what's one of the first things you do? What is one of the first things you do without a default, like Martin said? What was Martin saying earlier? You've got to believe that you can do that. What's the quickest way to get belief about getting a certain percentage return? Have the stats to what? Prove it. Then it's just a case of, can you do it? Remember, the first question is, does the strategy work, give you what you want? can you work it? Can you get what you want? Have that phrase in your head. Does the strategy work? In brackets, give you what you want. And then next, can I work it? In brackets, can I get what I want? So does it give me what I want? Can I get what I want? Give me yes, this is making sense. Right. I want you to write these words down in terms of how you approach your 2016 trading and your goals. Number one, visualize. Visualize your goals for 2016, trading and otherwise, with intent. Now, what do I mean by intent? When you visualize a goal with intent, you see yourself as what? Failing at it or achieving it? Achieving it. You see yourself doing it. Yeah. Spend time doing that. Now, unfortunately, this is where the secret goes wrong because it implies that's all you've got to do. Now, if you are visualizing your goal and it feels awkward at this point, what should you do? Question whether it's actually what you really want. Because if it doesn't feel good in the visualization mode, where you haven't actually really put it out there, it's still internal, does that make sense? The chances are it ain't the right goal. Give me a yes if that makes sense. And that's where you have to be honest. And it's the beautiful moment of visualizing is it's internal. Is you don't have to, you're not facing the reaction of anybody else. You're not facing the criticism of anybody else. None of that. Does that make sense? So you've only got your own barometer. So if you're sitting there imagining making 20% a month and if it feels uncomfortable, it might be just because you don't believe you can get it. Come and talk to us. But if you genuinely, it just doesn't feel right, it might be it's the wrong goal. Second thing I want you to do with your goals is verbalize them to someone. I don't mean written down. I mean verbalize. Say them out of your mouth. Now, you don't necessarily have to go around, and be careful who you talk to because you might talk to somebody who's got no clue, but verbalize them. Does that make sense? This is exactly where I am going to be with my trading. Give me a yes if that makes sense. So visualize, verbalize. Third is rationalize. Now, rationalize doesn't mean diminish it. Rationalize means, excuse my spelling, is check that it's doable. What was Martin talking about? What he was saying, you've got to truly believe. Now, this bit's easy because you've not really put that much on the line. But rationalize it. Go test it. Is it doable? I'm trading pullbacks between 7 in the morning and 8 at night, and I want 50% return a month. That's what I've visualized and verbalized, but you need to rationalize it. And then if you rationalize it by testing, seeing what other people are doing, testing the market, doing whatever, and it's not realistic, go back, revisualize, reverbalize, and then your rationalization is just a quick check-in. Is this making sense? It's a bit like the old saying, your goals should be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, time specific, you know, all that. It's that kind of thing. So visualize it, verbalize it, but then rationalize it. And then if it's not, and it's like, no matter how good a trader I am, I'm not going to get 60% trading pullbacks on 6 markets between that time and that. Revisualize, reverbalize, re-rationalize it. Right. Then actualize. Actualize is taking the action. So actualize. So make what you have verbalized, so visualized, verbalized, and rationalized, make it actual, make it real. Do the necessary steps. So then when you ask the question, you know, I keep talking about this, how can I be successful? How can I be successful? Instead of, why am I not, why don't I get out of bed? How can I be successful? All I have to do is the list of things that gives me this. It's that simple. It's that brutal. It's that honest. It's that beautiful. Because if I don't do it, I can easily see where I'm going wrong. Does that make sense? To actualize it, how do I do that? I get up every day at 6. I do that and I do that. Because here's the thing. This is where the liberation occurs. Because if you don't do it over a period of time, now some people have fear, some people have things from their past holding them back. I get that. But surely at some point, if that goal's that important to you, you'll get over it. Does that make sense? It might take one person 6 months. It might take one person 6 days. Depends what's holding them back. But if you keep asking it and keep it that, this is simple. Visualize, verbalize, actualize it with a list of things that absolutely will mean if you do them, you'll get it. And then if you don't do the list, you know that it's not important enough to you. So go back and do the same thing. Visualize the goal, verbalize it a different way. Ask the question, rationalize it. Is this what I really want? And then you materialize. I have a friend of mine, and this is his metaphor for achieving a goal. Yeah, he stands there and he imagines writing it on the side of a little rocket, like he writes his goal, and what happens is he visualizes him writing his goal on that rocket as if he's got it now. He puts it in a rocket launcher, fires it, watches it go up in the air, watches it land, and he just imagines himself walking towards it. So it's like a rocket. He calls it a rocket of desire. So he just fires out his rocket of desire, and then he takes a journey towards it. Now, to me, that's a very, very powerful analogy of how you achieve your goal. So you've got your goal, you've got to fire it, and then because what it does is it makes you think about, actually, I have to take a step, because the fun is going and finding it. Does that make sense? I watch my dogs go, and when I throw the ball into the fun for them is finding it. Is watching them get to the point, and then when they get it, if they can see it every time, it's no fun. Does that make sense? So just imagine, it's yours. It's just a matter of 3 months, 2 months walking to it. So when you set your goals this year, that's the process I would go through. Visualize them, verbalize them. And you don't have to verbalize them to anybody else. You can just verbalize them to yourself, but say them out loud. You can then write them down if you haven't already, or you might write them down to then verbalize them. But say them out loud. Because how many of you have ever said anything out loud to yourself? How many of you tried mantras? How many of you tried, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy? Or every day I'm getting stronger and stronger. And how many of you feel like a total dick when you do it? Yeah. The reason you feel like that is because, one, it's not your mantra. You've borrowed it, stolen it from somebody else, so it's probably not true to you. And secondly, because when you say something out loud, it's different than it being in your own head. Does that make sense? When you say something out loud, it's different than it being in your own head. Does that make sense? Because when you're in your own head, the control can just go and go and go and go, and you can go off in different tangents. That's why the most powerful phrase you can ever say out loud is, how can I be successful? Now, it might be that you have to be more specific. How can I, all right, I need to do more back testing. How can I do 6 back tests a week? How can I do 10 back tests a week? So but that phrase said out loud, because when you ask your brain a question, it has to go and find the what. Has to find the what. So surely it's all about the question you ask it. So when you're actualizing, that is how can I be successful, is how can I achieve this goal that I've already verbalized and rationalized, so I know it's achievable. Yeah, because that's the problem as well, is a lot of people set goals that simply aren't achievable, or they haven't lined it up. So what we did this afternoon is we did this, didn't we, Brian? So what do you want, Brian? I want 15% a month. Brian had already done some research, done a document on how to backtest, and was going to do more backtesting. But I was like, we need that. If that's your definition of success, we need to ask the question, how can I be successful? Well, I need to test. Well, not just test. I need to know if I'm testing, I'm going to get this. What about your own personal situation? And very quickly you can drill down. This plan can be so focused. All right. Any questions or observations? Has anybody noticed anything? Mark came back this week and he said he's been using this mantra all week. How can I be successful? How can I be successful? And he said it's a little bit like Skittles or dominoes. You knock one thing down, it's like, right, how can I now be successful again? How can I now? And it gains momentum for him. Has anyone got anything they want to add, or anything they've noticed, or anything they're going to do differently going into 2016? Or anything that they've done this year? So has anyone got anything based on what I've talked about? Good. Okay. Excellent. Good stuff, guys. Yeah. Okay. Good. And that's where the detail comes in here. The focus. It doesn't have to be a lot. Detail as in focused, very specific. Yeah. Brilliant, Carl. Yeah. And it stops any unconscious or subconscious worrying of why can't I get it right? What if it goes wrong? What if I do this? Why did it work yesterday? Doesn't it? Does that make it stops that? It just cuts that. Because sometimes they're the things that who's had that go on in their head? Why am I doing this? Why am I not? Why am I shit? Why am I fuck up? Why am I this? Why am I not good at that? Why can't I talk to girls? Why can't I talk to girls? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Why can't I get this right? Why do I keep annoying my girlfriend? All these whatever bullshit it is, yeah. But stop that. How can I be successful? The reason I like that is the reason I like that question so much is because it's not answering the specificness. Does that make sense? It's just cutting you down. It's just stopping you asking the wrong questions. It may be not the right question from a specific point of view, but it's starting you down the right path. Does that make sense? And try it for a couple of days and see from a self-awareness point of view whether or not you might not come up with the actual answers or the right question, but see whether or not you're stopping asking the wrong questions as much. Does that make sense? Martin's an expert at this. Whether he knows it or not, he's an expert. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to him.
Hey guys, just to add to what Ali is talking about, this is brilliant stuff, by the way. It's brilliant stuff. I don't know if you like it. Do you all love it? Do you all like it? This is just brilliant stuff. I'm really enjoying this session. Really enjoying it. So for me, it's very important. Let me ask you a question, guys. Where exactly is your reality now? Where are you living? Are you living in the past? Are you living in the present? Are you living in the future? Present, right? Yeah, so with that note, if you have a goal, where is your goal happening exactly? It's happening in the present, right? So just to give you an idea, what I think is very good exercise, stay present, first thing you need to focus on, it's time. So first thing, write this down if you want. First thing for me is time. Understand that you have 24 hours in a day. Does that make sense to everyone? You have 24 hours, no more, no less. 7 days a week. So you have more than enough time. Second is be aware. So stay aware. The reason I'm telling this, have you ever not been in a situation where you talk to a friend of yours and he start chatting to you and your mind takes you somewhere else? You literally, in that moment when he start chatting to you, you start thinking about something else and you don't really hear what he's talking about, or you lose the concept. Yeah? And have you experienced, for example, if you are somewhere out in a venue, have you experienced a situation where a plate comes down to the ground and breaks, and literally at that moment breaks your pattern, literally gets you in the present moment? Have you experienced this? So it feels like a shock, feels like a slap, and you get in the present moment, right? So asking the question, how can I be successful, is exactly the same as the plate that just broke into the ground and got you in the present moment. So asking the question, how can you be successful, works like this. I use a different tool, and I know it may sound a bit silly, but it works for me. I ask myself the question, am I still breathing? Sounds silly, but it does the job and I love it. So I ask myself the question, am I still breathing? When I ask myself the question, am I still breathing? I literally, my mind stops at that particular moment, my mind stops. So I breathe in and breathe in and breathe out, and I become aware in the present moment. Does that make sense to everyone? So I'm asking the question, am I still breathing? I'm asking this constantly during my day. And this is easier said than done, and do not think that you need to be a monk or you need to be a very spiritual person to achieve this state. It comes down to exercise. You just need to practice it. Practice it day after day, minute after minute, and you get better in it. And the third most important bit for me is making the difference between challenge and problem. This is something we've been discussing last couple of days. So making the difference between challenge and a problem. Let me ask you a question. What do you believe is the difference between challenge and a problem? And I know some of you were in the last Tuesday session where we covered this. So don't worry, just answered. Okay, interesting answers, guys. Right. For me, the difference between the challenge and the problem is the challenge happens in the present moment, then problem, so challenge happen in the present, then problem happens in the past, or it goes in the future. So what the challenge is, it's a certain situation, you experience a certain situation or meet a person, and in order to deal with the challenge, You need to use all the available tools and resources in your current environment in that present moment so you can deal with the challenge. Does that make sense? So you're using all the available resources, and it takes your focus, so you need to focus on it and use all the available resources in your current environment, that present time. Problem on another side is same as a challenge, but it occurs somewhere in the past or somewhere in the future. So somewhere in the past or somewhere in the future. What that means is that you're experiencing the same scenario. This is how I like it to I like to explain it. You experience the same scenario. Think of it as a movie that goes over and over in your head and repeats without seem to have an end. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? So, giving you an example with trading, when you wake up in the morning and if you're trading morning momentum breakouts, you have a trade setting up in front of you. You have beautiful consolidation, right? Clean air 5 to 1, let's say, right? 1 hour momentum is present. All you need to do is focus, use all the available resources, the information you have available, which we call criteria, right? And discretion. So strategy, criteria, and discretion. Use this information and place the trade. Does that make sense? Where do you think the problem kicks in? What a problem might be? So we said challenge is something occurring in the present moment, and we need to use our focus and the available resources, which eventually is strategy, criteria, and our discretion. What about the problem? Okay, how to react to winning or losing, but where does the problem occurs? Where does the problem comes? Think about it. Think about this morning when you sat down in front of your screens and you were trading. What was the challenge? The challenge was when you saw that setup, right? And you place the trade. When you place the trade, some of you might have experienced that problem happening in your heads. Someone might experience that you start thinking, oh my god, what's gonna happen if that trade comes a winner and I take only 1 to 1 that I'm supposed to take, but then it goes 5 to 1 is the clean air I have. Look how much I can miss on it. Or some of you probably are thinking, oh, I had 4 losing trades in a row. What's gonna happen if this is a loser? I'm gonna feel devastated. I'm gonna feel very frustrated. I don't think that strategy is working. This is the problem. So in order to be present problem, you need to delete it. You need to try and delete it. And you do this asking the question, how can I be successful? Am I still breathing? The reason for this is that goal, right? Which let's say for sake of it, it's a 1 year goal. It does not happen in 1 year. That goal happens now and that particular moment when you face this challenge. Does that make sense to everyone? So you're achieving your 1 year goal with every single challenge that comes along. Does that make sense? This is your goal in your heads, and this is your goal that the life is testing you. This is life test for your present, for your 1 year goal. So in order to stay in the present, you need to use all the available resources and you need to use everything you have in that present moment. This is how I do it, people. This is how I do 200 backtests in a week. And the only reason is because I'm aware of my time. I'm aware that I have 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. So if I want to do something, I need to take or manage my time different than most people so I can achieve my one, let's say a week goal, right? A weekly goal. Second thing is that I know and I totally understand that life happens. How many of you use that excuse? Life happened. I didn't do that. How many of you use that excuse? Life happened. Sorry, life happened. I couldn't do it. Right? Okay, how do you feel when you use this excuse? Do you believe this excuse, this is a good excuse to have? Nothing you can do, life happened. Do you feel empowered by this excuse? Or do you feel beaten by life when you say that? Do you feel that life got in your way and literally worked against you in that particular moment? Yeah, you know it's BS. Yeah. Yeah. This is because when you feel battered by life, when you say life happened, is because you focus on the problem. You didn't focus on the challenge, right? Do you want me to tell you something interesting? The reason you didn't achieve or you didn't yes, you didn't achieve all the problems that you have, right? And you still, how many of you, do you still have problems? I certainly do. I have a lot of problems, like every single person on this planet. But there is, I understand that there is not going to come a day where I'm going to sort out all of my problems. But the reason I can tell you I'm sorting out all my challenges is because I'm still alive in that present moment. And because I'm still alive and I'm doing what I'm doing, it means that I'm achieving every single challenge that comes along. But being aware of the difference between them gives me even more power to achieve my goals. Does that make sense to everyone? It comes down to practice. You need to exercise it. You need to write it down. You need to look into it, and you need to practice it every time when it comes in your heads. Just be present. Be present. When you focus on the results that are coming, that you're gonna see in 20 days, let's say the beginning of the month, right? You're focusing on the problem, right? When you're at work and you're focusing what to cook for dinner, you're focusing on the problem. When you're driving the car and you're thinking about trading or the trade that you lost yesterday, you're focusing on the problem. Instead, understand that it's better and easier and easily done to focus on the challenge and create your own challenges regarding trading. Does that make sense? So if you're driving the car and you see yourself that you're focusing too much on the problem, create a challenge that's connected to your 1 year goal and focus on it. For example, every time I go to work, it takes me 15 minutes. So every time I go to work, I listen to an audio book. Sometimes I do listen to heavy metal because I love it. But most of the occasions, I listen to audio books because I understand that when I drive my car, I've seen it and I've experienced it that I'm focusing on the problem. So instead, I want to focus on the challenge and I want to learn something from that present moment. Does that make sense to everyone? And also drive safely, right? This is also a challenge. Drive carefully. Right. It just takes exercising. So if you focus on the challenge, this is how I do it. This is how I achieve consistency. This is the way I achieve consistency. I just focus on every single challenge. When I trade, I just focus on the setup. I place the trade, I forget about it. Then I go on to look for another setup, right? When I finish trading, I focus on the challenge to review my trades. When I review my trades, I then write down the results, right? So I then sit down and create the challenge, write down the results, take screenshots, right? Evaluate your trades. When I do that, then I create myself a challenge. In that particular moment, I say to myself every single day, I have a goal, and I know I go over it on most occasions, but I have a goal. 10 minutes, I need to read something. So 10 minutes a day, I need to read something, and I have a different goal. Every single day, I need to try to learn something, something else. An example of what I'm learning is I love drawing, I love sketching, so I watch a lot of YouTube videos how I can become a better in in my drawing. So 10 minutes a day I make sure I draw, which gives me a lot of relaxation as well. So this is a way of, let's say, meditation. I draw. I also train, so I do sports. When I do my workout, I'm trying to be present. I ask myself the question, am I still breathing, right? So I'm trying to be present and I'm focusing on exercising, on the exercises. Does that make sense to everyone? You can use this tool in everything in your life, not only in your trading, and you see it what a massive power it will give you in your everyday life. So when you come down to the excuse life happened, right? If you use that excuse 100 times this year, when you start using this formula, when you start using this tool, next year you can use it only 50 times. Or even if you use it only 90 times, it means there is a change. There is a change in the pattern. Does that make sense to everyone? And this is why asking the question, am I still breathing? How can I be successful? Is breaking the pattern of in your mind of focusing on the problem and getting your focus on the challenge. I don't know if Ali wants to add anything to this. Ali?
Well, firstly, I think when this recording comes out, guys, I would watch this section over and over again. Maybe make that your 10 minutes a day. Maybe extract the audio from it, stick it on your iPhone and listen to it. Because one of the things that I think encompasses what Martin's saying here is you have to condition this. Does that make sense? So as soon as you try and see it as a challenge, the first time you do it, you'll still see it as a problem. So like for me, it's interesting that Martin's phrase is, am I still breathing? I know that if I am feeling less present, I will go and breathe. I use what's called heart math. So am I still breathing? Isn't it interesting that Martin's question to get him more present is the question, but his question is what I will go and do to get more present, because his question then probably makes you breathe, doesn't it, Martin? So what this links up to that I'm seeing in the morning is this hallucination that people have about certain things, and it stems from them seeing a problem. So the problem might be they really want a winning trade, so they hallucinate that level doesn't mean a lot. Whereas if they'd had 3 winning trades, they may not be taking that trade. Does that make sense? So one of the easiest ways to, Martin's only spoken to me about this process on a phone message, but seeing this is fantastic. And what's even more important is you're seeing this from somebody who wasn't trading successfully 2 years ago. So it's almost like you're given the most God-given blueprint, the most amazing blueprint that you could ever have, because this is test proven recently. Does that make sense? Martin's overtraded, Martin's undertraded. So if this works, try it. You've got nothing to lose. And what this will do, one of the things that I've been going through tonight is that my stepson spends a lot of time gaming, and then a lot of time on his phone. yeah, as young kids do. But one of the things we've been explaining to him is he doesn't give his brain any space. Does that make sense? He doesn't give himself any time to come up with the idea. Doesn't give himself any time to be present. Because it's when you're present that you have your ideas, when you're seeing things as challenges. Because most people rise to challenges but cower away from problems. Or they see challenges as external, something like an obstacle they can climb, but a problem is a pattern or a something that is less surmountable. Does that make sense? So this is hugely valuable. I've not really got anything else to add other than it's brilliant. Has anybody else got anything they want to add or they've noticed as a result of what Martin said? I mean, just looking at what Martin has given you tonight, forget what I've been talking about. There's so much value there. I think the only thing I would add is realize that it is a conditioned scenario that you're looking at. It doesn't happen when you try it once. You have to do it over and over again. I think what I'm going to end on is this. Please write this phrase down. Everything you do is everything you do. So if I'm the whole how can I be successful, this concept came from an area within the business that I've been procrastinating on for pretty much the year. I don't know, some of you may have heard me talk about this. Now, what I was doing was realizing that actually I was like, why is it I'm achieving other areas of life, but I can't get this sorted? Why am I just not getting around to this? All the wrong questions. Does that make sense? And actually, I was more frustrated by my lack of progress in this area because I was making so much progress in other areas of my life. So overall, it's been a really good year, but this one thing was niggling at me. Does that make sense? Now, I could have brushed it under the carpet and gone, well, if I add it all up, it's been one of my best years yet. So the fact I didn't do that, well, I'm only human. But I couldn't do that. I was like, this is niggling at me. And I was asking all the wrong questions. But what I realized is the quickest, easiest way to condition yourself to be challenge focused and present with your trading is to be challenge focused and present in every other area of your life. Because everything you do, and Sam, you've heard this phrase before, is everything you do. A friend of ours uses it. So everything you do is everything you do. So don't wait till you're in front of your trading screens to adopt the process that Martin's given you here. Do it when you go to the gym. Do it when you're out socializing. Some people have a challenge when they're in groups talking to lots of people and they're in their own head. Or they see it as a problem that they're less comfortable. So go and see it as a challenge. Be present. Am I breathing? Yeah. Whatever it is, going to the gym, socializing, being with family. I don't know. Christmas can be a stressful time. Yeah. A lot of people go, Christmas is a big problem. So it's a fantastic tool, but use it everywhere and you'll find it's easier to be present and easier to see your trading challenges rather than see them as problems if you're practicing it at the gym and you practice. Because I practice this hugely at the gym. And it makes it, and it's got a very good crossover. All right. But I'm certainly going to be adding things in from what I've learned tonight. So some massive insights from Martin. Yeah, exactly right. It's not next week that you're missing. It's every minute of every day. Yeah. You're either you're achieving your goals or you're missing them. There's no middle. There's nothing else. You're either on track or you're off track. So guys, I think a big thank you to Martin, not only for tonight, but a massive thank you for taking on the trading room, helping you guys. His commitment to you guys has been fantastic. There's been a big change in Trader Support Club, and I owe Martin a huge debt of gratitude for what he's done and how he's been able to let me get on with other things that are going to allow the business to be, and the products and the service and what we offer you next year, even greater. So he's got a very wise head on his shoulders, and I'm also very privileged, not just because he stepped in and done this, but just very privileged to have the learnings. So I hope you've had a good year, guys. What I would say is that goal process is, don't leave that too long. So make sure, if you haven't started thinking about 2016, try and do it before you've had too much alcohol, because alcohol will numb you and you won't be in such a good frame of mind, and too much food will make you feel less positive and less focused. So try and think about your goals before you have a little bit of a slumber, if that's what you do over Christmas. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with eating a little bit too much, drinking a little bit too much, but it might not be the best time to be setting your goals. So maybe do that this week. And start the process now, because there is that little bit of a void period. Have some fun over Christmas as well, as I'm sure you will. Enjoy yourselves. We're going to be doing that tomorrow. So we're having a bit of team fun tomorrow. So enjoy yourselves. Look after yourselves. I hope you've had a good year. If there's anything that you want to ask us over the Christmas period, you can still email us. Monday, we're going to be doing a webinar, and it's going to be a little round robin, a little bit like what me and Martin have done, but Sally's going to come on the mic, Lewis is going to come on the mic, James is going to come on the mic, so it'll be a little bit shorter. It'll only be about an hour or so, but it will just be us giving a bite size, so you might hear Martin do another rendition of this or something else that comes in. So if you can be there on Monday, that's our last official teaching session that we're doing. We're back, so the room is shut now for a couple of weeks. We're back. First session is the morning of the 6th. I am actually away that week, so I'll be doing ad hoc first thing in the morning. Sally's going to be doing that. We're not sure what we're doing in the afternoons yet. Maybe that Lewis comes in, possibly Kerry might come in, maybe not necessarily on the mic, but to help you guys there. And then Martin's going to be doing the evening sessions that week. All right. So if you want to send in your goals, again, don't spend too long making them perfect. If you want to scribble them down on paper and then scan them and send them in, don't make don't fall into perfectionist about them. Get them down. Make sure you visualize, verbalize, and go through that process. Think hard. I'll get this recording out so you can listen to this maybe over the Christmas period when you've had a little bit too much to eat and drink, and it gives you a little kick up the arse. But really, really enjoy yourself, guys. Thank you so much for all your commitment. Thank you so much for your support this year. It's been fantastic. You guys make Trader Support Club what it is. Certainly for me, I was very taken aback when we had the social evening. That was very bizarre, to be stood in a bar and every single person stood around you was talking about trading. I've never had that happen to me before, and that was you guys. So there'll be more of that next year. I'm going to be at the FX show again, so we're going to try and do a social off the back of that. We're going to look to do another live day as well. We're looking to come out to you, Debbie, as well, and spend some time out with you guys as well. So there's lots going on, but the more you give us, the more we can give you. So the more back testing results, how good or bad, the more trades you send in, good or bad, the more you give us, the more we can do for you. All right. So I know for you, Debbie and Peter, you're staying up late to be here tonight. So good on you for doing that. So yeah, so we're gonna I may well be out there anyway, either for a holiday. So if we can time it, we'll do a little social and a meet up for all you guys in SA. Whether or not I can be, I might be holidaying in Cape Town, but we'll come up to Joburg because I know a lot of the guys are in Joburg. So we'll work something out on that front if I'm coming out. All right. So all good, guys. Have a wonderful Christmas. Wishing you all a very, very safe, happy, and fun Christmas and a wonderful New Year. I look forward to seeing you in the New Year. Keep in touch. We'll be in touch. Keep an eye on the Facebook page. Yeah, there'll be stuff going up even now. Keep an eye on the support. Send us anything you want and have a good one, all right? Thanks for a wonderful year. All the very best. Take care, everyone.